Captain Picard. Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
My Readier Room.
Readier Room, the only and longest running Star Trek The Next Generation rewatch podcast. Every week of the year, we're bringing you Star Trek stories behind the scenes of the next generation, which in turn is the best generation of Star Trek. My name is Mitchell Mells, Chief Consultant of Services at Paramount, and with me is my life partner, Brandon Hobbs, Head of Resources Management. Brandon, how are we doing today?
Doing great, Mitch. We had a very unusually long off-mic conversation before this episode.
Yeah, I thought I was recording, but as it turns out, I was not.
Yeah, so now we kind of have to redo everything.
Right. So why don't we start from the beginning? Hello, I'm Mitchell Mills. I'm sorry, that's how we start all of our conversations together. I don't want the audience to get confused. But, yeah, it's some good times recently.
Yeah, oh, certainly. I understand you, Well, you know what? No, let's get into that conversation later.
All right. There's a time and a place for everything, and the time is later and the place is later. So, but I'm really looking forward to today, where we're kind of wrapping up phase 1 of the Next Generation.
Yeah. Wow. It's wow. This is a big deal because, as you know, we kind of, each phase corresponds to the costume changes.
Yes,
right?
That's the hallmark of the timeline of TNG.
So you're going to see phase 1 is season 1 and 2. We're starting phase 2 in season 3, and you're going to see some drastic wardrobe changes very soon,
yes.
Which I'm personally very excited for. I don't know about you, Mitch, but I love the new Starfleet uniforms.
As do I. I really like them, and I think this phase lasts until Picard gets his captain's jacket. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, when he gets his groove back.
Yeah, in Darmok. That's the onset of phase 3, but.
Right.
It's weird to me that, and this might just be a perception thing, that season 3, kind of because of the uniforms, or rather that the uniforms came at the onset of better production values overall, such that the show looks better and the characters are dressed better, and it's hard to not equate that better feeling of the show to the uniforms.
Well, yeah, I mean, it did give everyone a bit of a boost in morale. They didn't have to constantly tug at their uniforms every time they sat down.
Right. They still did, just out of habit.
They still did, yeah, but they didn't have to.
Yes.
And it was that kind of freedom that allowed them to express themselves a little bit more. I mean, as you know, a Starfleet jumpsuit isn't necessarily the most appealing thing one could wear.
No.
You know, it definitely shows off your curves in all the wrong ways. But the new one, much better.
Yeah, a lot of the things we see introduced in season 3 are for the better. Now, we'll of course get into that in excruciatingly thorough detail next week, but look forward to it, because I certainly am. Look forward to it. Are you looking forward to it?
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, good. Good. Okay. So this week, we have a question of the week, and it comes from Hamish in Mulvania. And Hamish asks, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, I assume it's not Hamich?
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
That sounds like an amalgamation of ham and sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Mom, make me a hamich.
What?
Make me a hamich. Anyway, Hamish asks, Dear Admirals, how can I get my girlfriend into Star Trek? It's by far my biggest hobby, and I want to share it with the girl I love. Over our 2 weeks together, I've tried to put it on a few times, but she always gets disinterested and leaves before Act 3. What can I do? And I think that you've had very similar experiences to this with success. So I think that Hamish would be very, very grateful if you could share the secret to success here.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't really call it a success. It was kind of more like bashing my own head against the wall, Mitch. But it did result in a fully watched episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, for sure. Disclaimer: I wouldn't recommend anyone replicate this at all.
Okay.
As we both know, if you're a Star Trek fan, you kind of want to keep that a secret.
Biggest
Right?
shame.
It's you're not going to do any good for your relationship by trying to get your significant other to watch Star Trek. In fact, it's probably going to ruin it. However, here's how you do it. Here's how you do it. First of all, you have her watch Star Wars.
Okay. On ramp.
It's kind of low effort, fantasy sci-fi, hero's journey kind of thing, right? You have her watch Star Wars. You get her through. If you can get her through the prequel trilogy, you can probably get her through anything.
Even childbirth.
Even childbirth. It's a lot less painful.
But just as long.
Then you have her watch Joss Whedon's Firefly. Okay? Have her watch Firefly all the way through, which she'll love because it's Joss Whedon, of course.
Right.
Then you have her watch the entirety of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, so following the Joss Whedon.
Following the Joss Whedon. Just as an aside, you have her watch the entirety of that. Okay? Then you rewatch The Office for the 12th time with her.
That's more of a concession.
Okay? Right. It's kind of like a breather.
Yeah.
Okay? The entirety, you have to do if you don't do the whole thing, it doesn't count. Okay?
But remember,
do the whole thing.
You have to skip Scott's tots. No woman will ever
They can't take it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They don't understand what it's like to have any kind of
outstanding obligation.
Right. And then what was the next part?
I believe the next
The Office, and then you have
once.
Oh no! Then you have her watch the UK Office to educate her on what the Office should have been. Right.
And
you have to watch the UK Office.
You have to make sure to cut in with biting remarks about the American version every time you can. Like,
right, you got to train her to understand what real humor is, of course. And then now that she's familiar with Ricky Gervais, you have her watch extras, okay? You have her watch extras at least until the Patrick Stewart episode.
Oh my God, it's coming together.
So you have her watch extras for the Patrick Stewart episode. She sees Patrick Stewart. She is enamored by him. She says, "Oh, who is that guy? Who is that sexy bald man?" And then you say, "Well, I have a show for you."
Oh my God, it's
and
genius! Genius.
There you go. And then you break
because you don't want to date somebody who watches Star Trek.
No, definitely not. Once they watch Star Trek, they're ruined. They stop taking showers.
They just keep talking about quadcorders.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I would do in this situation is to take the audio from an episode, maybe just like put it on a streaming service, but while they're sleeping, put headphones on them so that they can hear TNG while they sleep. And they'll wake up with the words Riker on their lips, and the interest will follow.
Right. Well, Riker is a very sexual character,
Indeed.
which women respond to.
He's the most sexual character that TNG had seen before. I would venture to say that he's more sexual than James Kirk.
I would say so, yeah. And of course, you've seen the graph of sex scenes in film and how men and women respond to them, and men don't respond well, but women respond very well to sex scenes. So Riker is really there for the women.
Right. Do you ever see people talking about movies or television shows, and they're like, "Man, why do they have to ruin this movie with a sex scene?"
Mm-hmm.
You ever think that these people are like children? Like, ew.
Well, I actually read a study, Mitch, that aversion to, well, this was specifically kissing scenes, but an aversion to kissing scenes, I think, makes you less likely to be a psychopath or sociopath. Sorry, sociopath.
An aversion to kissing scenes is less likely to be sociopathic.
Yes.
Interesting. That might explain some things. Now, you're saying that women don't have this aversion.
They don't have this aversion.
Interesting. This warrants further study.
It definitely does. We should fund it with the money we're getting from the Readier Room.
Right. I am sorry to report to the world that the GoFundMe, despite reaching its goal, the GoFundMe for the Zoom box is being canceled unceremoniously. However, we can use those funds and funnel them into this study so that the donators still get some value.
Well, why don't we tell the ensigns why it's being canceled? Because this kind of makes my blood boil.
Okay, there's a lot of things to this. So we mentioned that the Zoom box, being a skateboard hybrid, the volume scales with how fast the wheels are, the RPM, and now there's these regulations on how fast something can go if it's a quote electric scooter. Now, you might not know this, because I certainly did not, but the definition of an electric scooter has like a radio capability built into it. So that even though this is a skateboard, the fact that it can play music qualifies it as an electric scooter, and thus it is subject to the guidelines that define this. Because of that, it has to meet a certain amount of our speed that it can reach. And a skateboard not being motorized, but rather instead almost working as a motor for the Zoom box itself, it just wasn't fast enough, and we couldn't configure it to meet the government's guidelines on electric scooters. So the whole project had to be scrapped. Conceivably, and we kicked around this idea, we could have constructed them in overseas. In, I think it was Guam. Guam does not have these same laws, but
right
at that point, if we were going to sell them to the ensigns back home, or really anybody in the U.S., they wouldn't really be able to ride it, because if the cops ticketed them and asked, "Oh, where's your electric scooter license?" What would they show them?
Right.
So
right.
It's for now. It's still a dream. It's still my dream, but the world it just isn't ready.
It I would argue it also didn't help that we were retweeted by a guy named Ben Shapiro.
Yeah. After
Which,
that,
I don't even know what that is, but that really brought them down upon us, huh?
Our replies on Twitter were very toxic following that.
I don't even know who that is. Who is that?
He's got to be part of Big Scooter. That's the only thing I could think of.
It's got to be. I can't think of anything else. But honestly, it's ridiculous the lack of freedom we really have in this country, Mitch.
Yeah, but
what are you gonna do? Those
funds will still be appropriated for the greater good. Studying the sociopathic tendencies of women. And I can only hope that our conclusion, our breakthrough, is enough to sate those left wanting by their lack of Zoom box.
Yeah, which I think the demographic matches up.
Agreed. So great things are coming. rest assured, I want to assuage all of the fears and concerns of the ensigns. And if you're worried that, I donated to this GoFundMe and now my money's being used for something else, you can always donate to the Patreon instead, and you know where that's going. So,
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So, Hamish, I hope that answers your question. Best of luck to you and to yours and to ourselves as we start this new research venture. If you too have a question of the week that you want us to answer on the Question of the Week segment of our weekly podcast where we answer questions, you can send an email to the readier@gmail.com. That's with a capital T and 2 capital R's. And, we never specify this. The second capital R is the beginning of room, not the end of Readier. So be careful about that.
Right. That's right. Yeah. We have gotten a few bounce backs because of that. So yes, just make sure that yes, the capital R is for room.
I remember one time somebody capitalized the final R in Readier and the first R of room, which was just so far off.
I think they shut down our servers when they did that.
Yeah, the computer wasn't really built to handle. It was similar to Y2K in a lot of ways. Now, you can also tweet at us at the Readier Room, and we'll see your questions. We will read them, absorb them, think about them, and finally answer them on our prestigious podcast. I can't even talk. Anyway.
Yep.
So, today we're talking about Star Trek, the final episode.
The final episode of season 2, Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
So, Mitch, what did you think of Shades of Grey?
So, these days, I mean, Shades of Grey, I try to think about it in terms of metaphor. Where it's got like this core, but everything that branches off of the core of it is kind of prickles you, kind of bristles you, and it's not really something that you really want to be engaged with or to be touching or to be feeling.
Right, much like a cactus.
That's right. And cacti, I think, are really just wonderful plants.
They're fascinating, aren't they, Mitch?
Yeah. So, my boom recently, my boom.
Yeah. Your my boom.
Right, my boom. I've been a bit of a cactus collector. I have 3.
You gotten into it.
Oh yeah, I have 3 little guys here right on my desk. I've named them actually. There's
well, I think they've already been named by scientists, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, my names are better, but come on, botanist, science, really? All right. Anyway, we have Sasha, Alexandra, and Mitsuko.
Wow. Wow. Really really spanning the globe with that one, huh? So who is Sasha?
Sasha is a kind of like it looks the most like the stereotypical image of a cactus. It's thin all around. It's got one main root with a couple of offshoots, and kind of a thin, pointy individual. Alexandra is a short, kind of thicker, stubby, little fat cactus that's blossoming with flowers. And then Mitsuko, as the name implies, has like 3 big.
Oh yeah. The big, tall, almost like a succulent kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how long has Alexandra been flowering?
Basically since I bought her.
When was that?
3 weeks ago, a month ago.
Oh wow, that's a long time to be flowering. Do you give them a lot of sunlight, or do you just keep them inside?
I keep them. So what I did was I keep them on my table here, and I've cracked open my curtain such that at certain times of day the sun peeks in and hits one side of them.
Yeah. So I've got my own cactus, of course. I actually haven't given it any sunlight really. It looks healthy. I haven't given it a lot of sunlight recently, but it's the Mammillaria bocasana.
Oh, he knows the genus. Now,
Yeah, it's a little short stout. Got some it's like several pillars jutting out of a central core.
I like it.
Every which way, and it also flowers, but it only flowered for a few weeks for me, and I even gave it quite a bit of sunlight too, and that's all it did. So I guess I have to wait a few months for it to flower again.
Now, you said it doesn't get much sunlight, but do you smile at it?
I mean, I talk to it.
Well, if you smile at it, at least something will be beaming at the thing. But did you give it a name?
No. Do you want to name it right now?
Yeah, live on the Readier Room. Now it doesn't have to be.
Do you know what?
Yeah.
Do you know what it looks like? Do you want me to send you a picture of what it looks like?
Yeah, send me a picture. The audience can enjoy this too.
All right, hold on. I'm taking a picture.
All right, I'm on the edge of my seat.
Hold on.
It's coming. It's coming.
Okay. I sent the picture.
Wow, this is quite the cactus.
It is.
It's a lot more bountiful than any of my cacti.
It's very full.
It kind of looks like peppers gone wrong.
Yeah.
I like it. Now, here's a question. I think you and I have very different opinions on this. Watering cacti.
Yeah.
Yeah. How often and with what water?
Probably every once a month or so. I just run it under the tap. For. I really just eyeball it.
Okay.
But I don't give it too much. I'm much more conservative with the water that I give it because I don't want to give it. If you give it too much, I mean, obviously, cacti just aren't equipped to deal with that.
Right. I think about every 2.5 weeks, I give all 3 of them a dash of seltzer, and it's important.
Well, at least they're living large, aren't they?
Yeah.
What cactus really gets seltzer? It's kind of like it's like a spicy water.
Yeah, it's like giving your dog chocolate.
No, I think seltzer's fine for cacti. I think it's fine.
Now,
there's no reason that carbonation would do anything to them, right?
What you want to do is crack open a fresh one, so when you pour it in, the seltzer and hitting the soil releases a bit of steam.
Right.
It's good times.
You're almost kind of like burning them.
Yeah.
To death.
But they've been prospering under this new diet.
Yeah, I would say during the winter time though, you want to water them a little bit less. Although maybe with the small amount of water you give them, it's probably fine. I'm not sure.
Are they hibernating at that time?
Well, the winter the issue is with heat. So like in the summertime, you want to water them more because heat obviously evaporates more water. So wintertime you can. I think the general idea is, and this varies from cactus to cactus, of course, but for my particular cactus, I think it's water them every couple of weeks during the summertime when it's hot. Water them every month or so when it's cold.
Interesting. Now, have you considered the idea that I keep my apartment in a perpetual state of roughly 22 degrees?
22 degrees, Jesus.
Well, I mean, in the winter, it's basically how cold it gets, and in the summer, the air conditioner's putting in overtime.
You know what bothers me about regulating temperature in the wintertime?
Great question, but no, I don't know.
It's that you can turn the heat up to you have a thermometer or whatever.
Right.
That's not the word, is it?
Thermostat.
Thermostat. So you have a thermostat. I'm sorry, I was thinking in Japanese. So you have a thermostat and you turn it up to a certain degree, right? But it never reaches that degree because it never senses just how cold it is outside. and you're constantly being pelted by like wind coming in through the cracks of your house / apartment. So it's always much colder than you expect it to be.
Yeah, I buy this.
Am I wrong?
No, you're not. The key is to sweat yourself out. Something that I experience quite often in the winter is to turn on my heater while I go to sleep. And what I do is I set it to like 31, 32 degrees and go to sleep. And then I wake up just delirious with sweat and wanting to vomit. And then I turn off the heater and fall back asleep.
You do actually do this too, don't you?
Yeah, of course. What do you think? I'm joking?
So there's always this debate, or not debate, but there's this kind of dichotomy that people sort of think of, and I'm not sure if it's true, but they say there's people who sleep cold and people who sleep hot.
This is true. Now I'm a bit unique. I do both depending on the time of year. If it's the summer, I'll put on 18 degrees and a hoodie and go to sleep like that. And if it's the winter, like I just told you, like 31 and wake up in a sauna.
So you are very comfortable in the cold.
Extremely comfortable in the cold, I would say.
Which I do remember from when way back in the day, I would sleep on your floor and you would blast the air conditioner in my face, and I'd be awake all night, and you would be sleeping soundly. So you must be a sleep hot kind of guy.
Well, I like it to be cold outside of my bed. Is what I like.
So here's what this means is that when you sleep, you generate more body heat when you sleep.
Yes, and
whereas when I sleep, I generate much less body heat, so I get cold very easily.
Here's the thing: this has been a constant thorn in my side throughout my life, and you know this through firsthand experience. I am very terrible at sleeping alongside other people. It's I mean, I like to keep the room in various states of extreme temperature, which just other people can't abide by. But if anybody is in the same bed as me and wants to, like, you know, snuggle up or whatever,
it's too hot.
It gets way too hot.
Right.
And I have a history of, like, while I'm asleep, you know, like pushing somebody away or like kicking them off of me or whatever. Don't come between me and my sleep. You know how dangerous that is.
I'm well aware. I've ended up on the floor several times.
Yeah, so I never thought about this in the sense of body heat and temperature, but that would be a good explanation.
Yeah, no, I think that is. I think you just generate a lot of body heat. Although that does kind of sort of raise the question of why you raise the temperature to 32 degrees. I
mean, it's kind of like a, what's the word? There's been a desensitization, insofar as I can only feel the extreme ends of the spectrum. It's kind of like, I want to get drunk, better down an entire bottle of whiskey. Otherwise, I'm not going to feel it.
Fair enough. Yep, we've all been there. So listen, the only note I had for this episode was Freek's massive rib cage.
Yes! Oh my goodness! So he's lying down, and oh my goodness, I can't believe we both took note of this. And his form-fitting, tight-fitting uniform belies his massive rib cage. It's very angular, and
it's huge.
He just kind of collapses in after the rib cage because at this point he was still in good shape.
Mitch, here's why I note this is because I also have a massive rib cage.
Yeah. Do you?
And I've never worn a form-fitting jumpsuit before, but if I had, you would probably notice. Yeah, it's huge.
Is that what they call barrel-chested?
Maybe. Yeah, that could be. I don't know. Like it like, you know, where the rib cage flares out, it just juts out like crazy.
I wouldn't say that mine is massive, but I would say it's bigger than average, and especially bigger than average in Japan. It's very annoying because if I want to buy a shirt like the stomach area, the arms, those will all be fine, but it's unnecessarily tight around the chest.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's yeah, I think we can both relate to Frakes in that respect.
indeed, indeed. And perhaps our own insecurities about our ribcage led us to noticing this.
And that's maybe
Because
but, you know,
otherwise,
maybe
why are you staring at a man's
maybe-
ribcage?
maybe that's why we got along with Frakes so well on set.
Yeah, I mean, we called ourselves the Barrel Brothers, as the
Yeah,
barrel
right,
chested.
right.
And we had our own little whistling theme song that we did in a secret handshake, but I'm sure the audience want to hear about that.
Right. Yeah, no, it's we can leave that to the imagination, I think. So
I was just thinking of the song we would sing, but it was good times. Anyway,
what?
Yeah, the Barrel Brothers song.
Oh, the Barrel Brothers song. Yeah.
Right, we're the Barrel Brothers and we're rolling downhill. Our big rib cage is our finest skill. You remember, right?
Yeah, it's coming back to me now.
How did it end? What was the other half of the verse?
Mitch.
I guess not everybody remembers the good times.
Not everybody remembers that quickly.
Anyway, yeah. So recently,
you got the easier part of that song, just so you know.
Oh yeah,
yeah. you.
He's making me look bad.
You basically created the paradigm of what that song would be.
Oh God, it reminds. You ever see that episode where there's I don't know. We might have watched this episode. No, I think it was after where we've seen so far. Picard is replaced by a fake Captain Picard, and he does a lot of things that Picard wouldn't do. But chief among them is going to 10 forward and leading the entire staff in like an old drinking song.
Yes, that was a really good episode from what I remember.
It was. The actual Picard's trapped in in a room with 3 other aliens, and there's a lot of paranoia, and so it was a good episode. But that drinking song was the inspiration for
that was the
Barrel Brothers
for that whole episode, really.
Yes. So recently, speaking of Star Trek: The Next Generation, I've been really into this other Netflix original series.
Right. Much like the Netflix original series Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Exactly. And I promise this is related to you've seen Midnight Mass, right?
Oh yeah, of course I've seen Midnight Mass.
Okay. Before I get to my point, just real quick, what did you think about it?
Well, Mitch, I thought it was I thought it was great, of course. It was very interesting. It was gripping. Had a great narrative. My thesis statement for why the show might not be great is I thought it was very not anti-religious, but almost anti-spiritual.
That's I had the opposite read on this situation. I thought the theme of it was against more organized senses of religion and more for personal spiritual interpretations of things, because a lot of the primary antagonist of the series, her big shtick is interpreting the Bible to suit whatever her current need is, whereas somebody like the priest, who's ultimately redeemed as a good person in the end, instead of sticking to whatever the rule is, he uses his own personal moral compass of like, okay, I just need to help people regardless of the situation. He tries to get everybody into the church before it burns down, whereas the woman wants to shun people who just aren't as pious as she is. So in that sense, I thought that it was more pro spirituality than religion, organized
You know
religion.
what bothered me was the line, "I can't feel my legs," at the end.
Oh, the very final line.
That really bothered me.
Why don't you go into why that is?
Well, because, and maybe this is just me imposing what I thought the show was going to be at the time, but it's a matter of like, you know, God, how do I explain this, Mitch? It's just that this character, I had thought that at the time it was a matter of, through her own will, she kind of got through, because she eventually goes on to forgive the guy who shot her, right?
Yes.
So in my mind, it was almost like through her own will, she kind of got over everything that was ailing her emotionally, and therefore recovered to a degree that she could walk again. And I mean, I guess as the show goes on, of course, it's like, she drank vampire blood or whatever, but
Dracula blood.
Dracula blood. But I thought there was still something incongruent there,
Yeah, I'd buy that.
Like her arc was just not right, because you don't, to be healed by an external force and then go and forgive the guy who shot you is a little bit sad, I think. It's like, of course you would forgive someone if someone else saved your life.
Right.
It
kind of takes away some of her agency.
It completely takes away her agency. And that really bothered me. I think that was the thing that bothered me the most about the show.
To me, I just don't see why that line is, perhaps not thematically, but practically necessary. It's the very last line of the show. What does it add?
Exactly, and that's also what bothered me. And I mean, maybe it adds that, like, oh wow, well, what, now we know the big bad guy is dead or whatever. But oh yeah, there's spoilers for Midnight Mass in this episode of the Readier Room.
Right. Don't worry, I'll take care of it in post.
Okay.
But and the way that line is said too, you would think that if something was going to be, the evil is dead, it's conquered, we've won, it would be a more triumphant line or a triumphant reading or something. But, and not to say everything has to end on a happy tone, but it's very strange for the characters to look at each other distraught, like, I can't feel my legs. Cut.
I genuinely hated that, and I think that almost ruined the show for me.
I think that's being a little dramatic.
It's absolutely being dramatic, but I really hate it because it was such a, to me it was such an inspiring, and this is obviously my own bias, of course, but to me it was such an inspiring character arc of this kid who gets shot through no fault of her own, and then kind of is able to move past it, and maybe with the help of the Pruitt, but it's more like he inspired the confidence within her, is what I had thought. But I mean, I guess no, at the end it was just vampire blood.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine to have an explanation for it that's concrete. I don't necessarily take umbrage with the fact that it was vampire blood the whole time, but it is cool that scene where her, she stands up, and the way that's drawn out of her, rather than forcing her into that situation by like pulling her out of the chair or something. And that's the thing. I mean, I don't know. I think even if it was vampire blood, she still had to make the effort to stand and to walk and to get up.
Right, and
to try.
I also think Pruitt as a person deserves some kind of doing something good. You know what I mean?
Well, I think he does. I said this before. I think he does get his redemption at the end of the show when he makes himself stand against. I don't remember that woman's name, but the fucking Helen Lovejoy, whatever her name is. It's whether or not that character deserves any kind of positive depiction or redemption. You could debate that, because Pruitt really screwed the pooch on that one. You know, he smuggled in a Dracula. Yeah, it's not something that.
Wait, he had sex with a dog?
Yeah, yeah, he did, and which
I don't
was,
remember that scene.
well, that was when he was still old and dementia riddled.
Oh, that's in the prequel.
Right. I really liked that character and their presence in the show. Basically, any scene that involved him was really gripping. Which
Oh, he's an amazing actor.
yeah, and the way the part was written was great. I think that choosing a priest, and obviously, priest religion mass has a lot of significance to the show in a variety of ways, but just from a utility standpoint, a priest delivers a homily, which is a pretty long-winded speech, which is just a great vessel for a good actor.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I think it was really kind of just the perfect, the perfect point between just like a great actor and great writing, really. And I think people take umbrage with the monologues here and there.
Mm.
Maybe not from Linklater, from Pruitt, but what did one thing that did bother me was Sheriff Hassan's little monologue near the very end there. It felt a little forced, didn't it?
Where was that? Was that when he was with his son in his house?
That was when he was talking to the doctor. No, he was talking to the doctor, and he was talking about
his history with like cops.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that all of the monologues are equally successful, but I don't think any of them were so detracting to me. I cared.
That was the only one that really stood out to me as like, we're spending a little bit too much time on this because it's in the middle of like something. I can't exactly remember where it takes place, but it's clearly an urgent situation.
I think that character, him and his son, were among the most tangential of the main cast that gets spotlight. And it's not bad, but I wasn't really invested in those two. It's like his son exploring a new faith and his crisis with that. Like I mean that's an.
See, I was interested in Hassan because I think.
Wait, Hassan or his son?
No, Hassan, Sheriff Hassan.
Okay. I thought you meant his son.
The sheriff. We'll just call him the sheriff.
He's the
Who's
sheriff.
The sheriff. I was interested in the sheriff. I think he was, because obviously we're dealing with a very homogeneous kind of Catholic society, and he gets transplanted in there, and I think there's room for some kind of interesting thing to happen there, and it didn't happen though. Really,
they find a couple natural ways of having people who would be in this community but naturally exist outside of its religious sphere. For example, this family of Muslims, they have this doctor who's a lesbian, and that she wouldn't feel very welcomed there.
You have Riley himself, who is, gone through the whole alcoholism and stuff like that, and kind of lost his religion.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense why these characters would not be a part of this whole ultimately nefarious thing as it's going down, but still have a reason to be in what is an extremely religious community. Now, what they really needed was just one edgy atheist Redditor to complete the circle, like some 15-year-old. It's like Richard Dawkins and whatever, and
right.
That
I think that would have been too far.
It would have been silly in the way that this show is not, which is good, of course. But yeah,
because already people, I've seen a lot of takes where people say this is it's so anti-Christian, but it's not. It's very clearly not.
Yeah, I don't. It's if it's anything, it's against Christians who don't adhere to the spirit of the Bible rather than the letter of
Right.
it, which A, that's a very reasonable group to take down, but B, even if it was anti-Christian, I mean, I don't know, it's art. Who cares? You don't have to agree with it. You can still enjoy this.
Enjoy it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's definitely I don't think it's anti-Christian at all. I think Mike Flanagan. I don't know if this is true, but I think he's been on records. I mean, I know it is true that he was an altar boy as a kid, the director.
Right.
And I think he does have a soft spot for, maybe if not Catholicism specifically, but organized religion to a degree. So I think it's all a very fair kind of depiction of everything.
Well, again, the depiction of the priest character, who's going to be the stand-in for the religion as an entity, is ultimately positive. He's shown to be an inspiring, caring leader. He has a tragic fall to some kind of otherworldly force, but in the end still shows himself to be the inspiration that a priest should be to his community. And when you write it like that, it's really hard to say that he has no affinity for, if not organized religion, the people inside of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's like, maybe it is somewhat of a criticism of the structure of it, or the organization itself, but it's not a condemnation of the people who believe in it.
Now, how did you feel about the? I want to say the horror element, but it's not quite a horror show, which is fine. But I guess the supernatural element. How do you feel about that?
I thought it worked well. I thought it could have done maybe without all of the foreshadowing. You know what I mean?
I
maybe.
Go ahead.
I was just kind of contemplating maybe it would have worked well to not have the thing appear outside of the sheriff's window or whatever. Just kind of let it naturally, because I mean, what's it really doing flying around and looking inside people's windows?
Yeah, I'm of a few minds on this. I'm a man of many minds. On the one hand, I liked the way those scenes were executed, in the sense that you kind of have a realistic look at that thing as if it was actually there. There's no camera trickery to obfuscate it. It's not deliberately hidden or anything. It's just, if I saw this thing from that distance in a low light level, that's basically what it would look like. It's not dramatized, which made those elements feel a little more real, which I liked. But at the same time, there's no need for that kind of. It's not a jump scare because it's not like a big loud noise, but there's no need for those like sudden shocks in a very even show like this. Now, on the other hand, I really would have preferred if things had been less explicit later on. I don't know how well served the show is by having a Dracula show up for mass, for having a character like cutting through its wings with a knife. I don't know. I was never really gripped by the scenes that involved an active presence of that entity.
I mean, I think it makes sense.
It makes sense in a few ways, but I would rather have had a version of this show where that didn't happen.
What should have happened?
It's a good question. I mean, I'm not a professional, not in this sense. I'm no writer, and it's a lot more difficult to propose alternatives for a show like this, of this quality, than season 1 of The Next Generation.
Yeah. So my thought is that like it does make sense in the absolute climax to show all your cards and just have him show up And did you need to cut holes in his wings and kill him? Maybe not. Maybe he survives and goes on to terrorize some other community.
Well, that's what Midnight Mass really needs, is a sequel.
Right. But overall, I thought it was fine. I mean, I thought the depiction of the Dracula was a little silly because clearly it's an intelligent entity.
Right.
But when it's quote feeding, it seems to not understand that it's getting impaled.
Yeah.
That bothered me.
It is strange where, okay, he dressed it up in priest's garb, but also it's just completely unintelligent at times. Yeah.
Well, no, yeah, because it stood up there like it's clearly supposed to be intelligent,
Right.
but then like just conveniently it's not sometimes. So the depiction of it is all over the place, and that is something that bothered me about it. Yeah.
The one positive of this very explicit depiction, not one positive, but a positive of it, is it really drives home almost the insanity of the situation where this priest is so far taken in by his life viewpoint, his outlook on things, his religion, that he sees a Dracula, and the only way that he can comprehend this is to believe it as an angel. And as things get even more intense, the priest himself is feasting on blood. This angel is, contrasted with all the religious iconography in the church, and he's wearing the thing, and anybody would see that this is crazy. To take that and believe it to be a force of good, an angel, is properly unsettling in a way.
Well, maybe it is a force of good, and it's just our perspective on it that's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they never say, "Oh my God, it's a Dracula."
It's a Dracula. Well, it's probably like The Walking Dead or whatever, where there's no such thing as a zombie in that universe.
That feels a little more ridiculous to me than this.
The thing is, though, it is kind of all relative, and when you think about scripture and the way that we've understood the idea of beings that are kind of above us, there's a lot of different ways you can interpret that. I mean, they could be aliens, they could be what we consider to be classical angels, they could be vampires. It could be a conflagration of two or three things. So
right.
Maybe it is that it's just like it's just a higher level of understanding than we're comfortable with.
I think one of the monologues in the show touched on that. They had they were explaining how the early people looked at the stars in the sky and believed them to be different things. I think that was this show. Maybe I'm watching other shows that have this.
Yeah, no, maybe it is.
But I guess it is no coincidence that the initial appearance of the Dracula was in a tomb, a cave in Damascus, literal where that lore started up.
So I think it's fair enough to not fault the characters for thinking.
I'm not faulting them.
It is a good thing, or
yeah, I'm not saying that I fault the logic of the characters in the show. It's just, as an outside observer, it takes on another level.
It's disturbing enough, yeah.
Right, because
you kind of get to see the dramatic irony of it all, and it's almost it's almost Greek tragedy like.
Right. And that's because the logic of the characters is as understandable as it is. The situation is as disturbing as it is, because it's not, oh, why don't they recognize this as a Dracula? It's, oh my God, their commitment to their religion is this strong that they can see something so vile and
right, and that's why I think it's very clearly not anti-religious, because it's like everything that everyone does in this show, for the most part, is very logical, and anyone would have done it.
Right, they're kind of, because their devotion is so strong, they're more or less taken advantage of by this thing, and they're victims, in a sense.
Every single one of them, yeah.
Yeah.
But then now you say that, if they didn't have their devotion, what would have happened?
Well, if he didn't have his devotion, he never would have gone to Damascus.
I suppose so, but let's say he did go to Damascus, didn't have his devotion. Let's say he goes anywhere, and the love of his life is dying, and he gets his blood sucked, becomes young again. Who wouldn't bring it back and try to save her?
That's true.
It's definitely, but then I guess it's a matter of community here. It's like the community here centers around a church, so it's easy to get them to kind of go along with it.
Yeah, and Catholicism is such a it's such a perfect thing in the sense that there's that the what do you call it, the communion, where they're eating the bread and
The
drinking
of
wine, and it's the metaphor for blood, which is very, very on the nose, but it's kind of the perfect situation to tell a vampire story in that sense, which and I'm going to take this opportunity. I loved a lot of the Catholic stuff going on here. Going to Catholic masses for the first, sixth of my life by this point. It's very nostalgic because
it's nostalgic.
Yeah. Catholic mass is just the same the world over for generations. That
right.
If you've been exposed to it for any amount of time and you watch this, you're like, oh yeah, I remember this. You can mouth what the priest is going to say because it's the same everywhere.
Yeah.
Which was kind of comfy.
Yeah, and I think it was meant to evoke that too.
Yeah, I mean that's you mentioned the writer director's history with that religion, and I'm sure it's similar for him.
Yeah. So I think there is some kind of modicum of respect for it in a way, or at least, like you said, nostalgia. So there's something there for the people who have a knee-jerk reaction to this being an attack on Catholicism.
Right. Now, I wanted more of this. I wanted to see more of this director's work because this was, very good in a lot of ways. The writing, the directing. Obviously the performances, but that would be different depending on who he casts in other work. But I wanted to see more, and I was thinking about, okay, can I watch some of this guy's other stuff? And I realized because he does so much straight horror work, that I don't know if I'm going to find something else from him that's of this quality. If he's just making, better than average horror films that are still horror films at their core. Maybe I'm biased against horror. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know if I'm interested either, really, to be honest. In straight horror stuff, it's really
right.
All kind of boring to me. So I'm in the same boat as you. Maybe it's good. I don't know. I don't know if I care to really go beyond this show for now, but
overall it was great. And
it was good. So Mitch, what did you think of Midnight Mass?
I would thoroughly recommend it. I loved it from start to finish. Maybe there was a scene here or there that didn't strike me as core to the series as everything else, but those are all nitpicks. It's very high quality and very exemplary of the talent involved, and it's not much of a horror. So if you're not a fan of horror, kind of like we just said we weren't, please still watch it. It's really great.
Well, now that we've spoiled it all for you,
yeah,
please go ahead and watch it.
Well, I would still say that there's a lot, unironically, there's a lot of merit still there.
There's a lot more to it. Yeah. We do need to talk about Kate Siegel, the Riley's crush or whatever, Aaron Green.
Right. Very, very large woman.
The wife of the director, which should explain a lot to you.
Well, that's unfortunate. I didn't know that.
Possibly the worst performance in the show.
Yeah, and one of the largest amounts of screen time.
She wasn't that big. What are you talking about?
No, I'm not. No, that wasn't a joke. She has a lot of screen time.
Yeah, she has a lot of screen time. Yeah.
But when I'm saying she's not like fat, but she is a tall, built woman.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, which I don't know why I'm stuck on that, but whatever. So here's a question: In this episode, Pulaski uses something called tricortazine. The relation between tricortazine and the tricorder is left unclear. Yeah. And
right.
I really wanted to know.
Right. Well, what you don't know, Mitch, is that the tricorder is powered by tricortazine.
So the same thing that powers the tricorders is going to be injected into Riker?
Yes. So, I mean, the tricorders have an element of AI within them, right? So they kind of have what's analogous to a nervous system.
Okay.
And that's kind of what helps them operate. We've discovered this in the far future. So, I mean, they inject Riker with 5 milligrams of tricortazine?
I think that's exactly right, and I believe it's for the purpose of staving off seizures.
Right. So, a tricorder, what you do is you put in a cartridge of
tricortazine.
Yeah, like 100 grams of tricortazine.
Like 100.
And it's like a battery. Yeah, it's like 100 gram.
Okay. So,
and it acts like a battery almost. And so that's how they're powered.
I see.
And they last about 2 of your years.
Now, is this like when you use a defibrillator and you jumpstart somebody's heart with electricity? Kind of another power source. The tricortazine is a power source.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Yes, it's more or less a power source.
Okay.
So there's multiple uses for it, and that's why it's called the tricorder, and that's why we couldn't call it the quadcorder going forward because there was no quadcortazine.
Not that we didn't try.
Right.
Yes.
Unfortunate event. What else do you have from this episode?
Well, I want to say that this episode has the best shot in TNG. And you might not be thinking of it. There's this shot of Riker from season 1 walking out onto a cliff in front of a matte painting of like a
yeah. And he's just screaming.
Yes. Again, the best shot in the history of TNG.
I mean, that must have been, when was that shot? Because he doesn't have the beard. I don't even know when that was shot.
Oh, it was early. It was early days.
It was yeah.
Yeah. Now it was very the timing of it was hard. We had to find a day where it was lightninging and the sky was an otherworldly purple.
Right.
Very difficult shot to get. And
then we never ended up using it.
Right.
Until now.
But we got it in there. And now it's part of the overarching lore of the show.
Right.
Now, one might say that was Riker's mindscape.
They might.
Right. His RuneScape. You know what RuneScape is? No,
what is RuneScape, Mitch?
So RuneScape is a game that my son plays. It's a video game. And the interesting thing about RuneScape is that by completing various tasks, your guy grows. His level increases. You start at level 1.
Like he becomes bigger?
Well, he grows as an individual. Not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let's say my guy's a fisherman. My fishing skill will start at level 1. I'm not very good at fishing, but the more I do it, similar to real life, I get better and I go to level 2 and 3 and all the way up to 99. Now, what it takes to advance to a new level increases every time your level goes up. So you got to try harder, which kind of makes sense. Your first year practicing something you have diminishing returns than year 11 to 12 from year 0 to 1, right?
Right. Yeah. So
with me here.
Yeah. So what you're saying is you spend exponentially more hours, picking away at rocks.
Yes, and the amount of effort and time it takes to go from like level 90 to 100 is more, or 99 is more than the amount of time it takes to go from level 0 to 90.
Wow. So you must be very proud of your son.
Yeah, I open the door to his room and lights are off except for the dim of the computer screen reflecting on his pasty visage, and I say, "You winning, son?" And he doesn't respond most days, but You know,
When
I
he
like.
does respond, what do you say?
It's more of a like a guttural, feral, kind of bark, scream, and
Well, he's focused.
right. Well, that's how he shows his affection.
Right. Well, at least he's making a salary, you know?
Right. Well, he makes an allowance. Is
Okay.
what he does.
Okay. That's fair enough.
Yeah, and you know, I'm proud of my son,
We're all proud of your son, Mitch.
my yellow son. His son, the sheriff.
So, Mitch, what did you think of Shades of Grey?
Oh, the Star Trek episode? I didn't watch it.
I guess, yeah.
I didn't watch it.
You didn't watch it? No, I didn't either.
Well, I mean, maybe we'll watch it next week.
I don't want to watch it.
All right, how about this? We'll pretend that we did. I'll edit this out, and we'll say that we liked it. I think
All right,
most people like this episode, so it'll be fine.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll restart this.
Right.
So, Mitch, what did you think of Shades of Grey?
Loved it. So I really liked it as an exploration of Riker's psyche and his character's profile. In a lot of ways, I felt like I knew Commander Riker in a way that I didn't before.
Yeah. A daring episode, really. Really surprised they did this. You know, we talked several episodes about how we would love an episode that's very focused on medical bay.
Right.
And we got it.
Yeah.
You know, we got it in spades here because we spend most of our time in medical bay. Well, half our time in medical bay and half our time inside Riker's mind, which was incredibly interesting.
Right.
It's a lot of things we've never seen before.
I just want to point out that this episode predates being John Malkovich. Unless you were John Malkovich, in which case...
Yes. You have been John Malkovich for a while now. But, highly recommend. It might be the best episode of the season.
Ends on a high note. And it's our time to say goodbye to Pulaski. This is the last time we'll see Gates in the makeup.
I think we've already kind of done our eulogy last episode, but just one more time. R.I.P. We're gonna miss you.
Yep. Rest in medical
bay.
Damn
shame. Rest in medical bay. So, should I give you a question today?
Yeah, you can give it to me. You can ask me it. Whatever you want.
All right. So this episode, as you may or may not know, for this episode we had Eric going through the archives to pull from the earlier episodes to get that whole clip show. His initial title for the episode was different from Shades of Grey. It was called Riker's Blank.
What's the blank?
What's the blank?
Okay. Is this a trick question? Is the answer Riker's Blank?
No, it's not Riker's Blank, but that would be a good title.
Let's see. Could be Riker's Mind, Riker's Journey, Riker's Demise, Riker's Death, Riker's Grand Adventure. Is it one word?
It's one word.
Okay. Riker's Return, alliterative, strong. Gotta choose one of these. Riker, I'm gonna take a stab here. I'm gonna say Riker's Voyage.
Riker's Voyage.
Yeah.
Oh. Nope.
Dang. Was it one of the litany of other options that I said?
Close. It was Riker's Brain.
Come on.
Yep, Riker's Brain.
Now, story that I believe you already know, but I'll share for the ensigns out there. the American rock band Fish once released a song called Spock's Brain. And
Yeah, that was the name of an old TOS episode.
right. And then in addition to that, they released a song called Riker's Mailbox, which had Jonathan Frakes playing trombone on.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
So there's a bit of a Riker's brain, Spock's brain connection if you ignore the original series title, which is an easier connection to make.
Interesting. I mean, we can bring this all around and talk about The Office again, because Trey was on that show.
Trey was on that show, and they pronounced his name wrong.
Did they?
Yeah.
Well, how do they pronounce it?
It was Stephen Colbert. I don't know why I remember this so well. It's kind of embarrassing, but Stephen Colbert was on the show, and he said Trey Anastasio instead of Anastasio. And there
I always thought it was Anastasio too.
There I was sitting, in my college dorm watching The Office, and I heard that, and I just started like jumping up and down, flipping out, like he said it wrong. He's Anastasio.
What is college dorm code for here, Mitch?
Well, it was somebody's college dorm. It wasn't mine. There's nothing wrong with robbing the cradle, as they say.
Well, I know this has been one of your proclivities for a while. I mean, all of us, in fact, but
I do work in Hollywood.
We'll discuss that at another point, of course.
Indeed. Well, I guess that's gonna do it for this week. Join us next week on the Readier Room when we dive into the good episodes of The Next Generation. I don't actually know what the first one of season 3 is. It might be bad. I don't fucking know, but
yeah, I forget.
Yeah, but it's the beginning of a new era. Join us then. Before then, shout outs to our sponsors, which include Actus, the Cactus Stop, and Netflix, where you can now watch Midnight Mass, and also NBC's what was your streaming service? Peacock, right? Where you can where you can stream The Office. And be sure to check those out, big friends of the Readier Room. And until next time, everybody, I implore you to please stay ready.
The troublesome little man-child.
Consider that in the history of many worlds, there have always been disposable creatures.
Do you consider yourself superior to us?
Should have told him to mind his own damn business.
But I stroked the beard thusly. Do I not appear more intellectual?
Computer! Freeze program.
It's not a promising beginning.